Afternoon and good evening. I am pleased to welcome you all to today's webinar on leveraging technologies for literacy in the framework of the Global Alliance for Literacy, or known as GAL. This event is hosted by the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning, UIL, in its role as the GAL Secretariat. For those who are participating in this series of GAL webinars for the first time, let me introduce GAL. GAL is the alliance of 30 countries and 16 associate members, which are committed to promoting literacy as a policy agenda and dedicated to providing a platform for exchange of knowledge, policies to improve literacy in the countries of their membership, but also beyond. Let me briefly summarize the previous two webinars on specific topics that we have held last year. In the first webinar, we focused on the EPAS, which stands for the Everyday Life Skills Practices Survey. This is a multilingual tool offered by UIL to countries to assess the literacy and numeracy competencies of individuals aged 15 and over. In the second webinar, the discussion focused on multilingualism and the relationship between literacy and how we promote inclusion in education and social cohesion by providing multiliteracy programs in the countries. We were pleased to have more than 150 participants in the previous webinars, and the recordings of these two webinars are already available on our platform, which is called UIL Learning Hub. If you would like to access, my colleagues here will be sharing the link to the webinar on the platform. Today, we continue this journey of a series of webinars for knowledge sharing and collaborative learning. This time, we'll be focusing on technology and other digital tools for literacy learning and instruction. This aligns with the GAL strategic goals, one of which is innovation. The innovation strategic goal within the GAL strategy recognizes the importance of using technology for promoting inclusion, but also quality of literacy and numeracy provision to youth and adults in the member countries and beyond. Two major initiatives which Secretariat or UIL has been carrying out, one of which is JEC and GAL training program, which are available to member countries and beyond, focuses on literacy educators' digital skills and competencies to improve literacy instruction and learning. Within this framework, we have already worked closely with 4 countries, Nigeria, Egypt, Cote d'Ivoire, and Bangladesh last year, and their training packages and contextualized modules are available in English, French, Arabic, Bangla, and Urdu for these countries. And currently, as we speak today, we are launching the project further in Morocco, with the financial support of Huawei, but a very strong collaboration with ANELCA, the National Agency of the Fight Against Illiteracy, as well as a training institute of literacy professions. In continuation of this project, we've hoped that we'll be able to launch self-paced learning modules on our UIL Learning Hub, which anyone can be registering and participating and certifying themselves through these training modules as well. The second initiative UIL has been doing, and I will welcome all the member countries, but also of GAL, but also beyond, is focused on digital framework for adult educators training. This is another initiative that we are working on in collaboration with Shanghai Open University of China. And we are currently focusing on the development of this framework, but also training modules that cover AI, digital media and information literacy, and many other issues related to adult educators' digital competencies in the programs. Without further ado, I would like to invite our director, Ms. Isabel Kemp, for her welcome remarks. And Isabel, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Rakat, and a very warm welcome to all the colleagues and participants of this seminar. Good morning and afternoon and evening, wherever you are. I'm very pleased to open this seminar today, organized for the members of the Global Alliance for Literacy. Today, we are meeting to discuss the opportunities offered by technologies to improve youth and adult literacy programs from a lifelong learning perspective. In the world of lifelong technology in learning, technology is a real powerful tool, blending into our daily lives. It spans across different areas like family, school, community, and work, breaking down barriers between the formal and informal learning and education areas. As we face uncertain times marked by conflicts, climate crisis, and economic challenges, technology can be considered both a challenge and a contributor to solutions. Technology has increasingly dominated our life, whether in our communications, entertainment, learning, or work. It is essential for accessing public services like healthcare, employment, banking, and education. And there is a growing need for digital skills both at home and at work. Technologies such as social media and AI continue influencing and redirecting public opinion, replacing more traditional ways of receiving information and social participation. On the one hand, the development of digital skills requires very strong literacy skills. While literacy is essential for lifelong learning in today's digital age, according to the latest literacy data by UIS, around 765 million youth and adults still lack literacy skills worldwide. 2/3 of them are girls and women. A significant portion of them reside in South Asia, nearly half, and Sub-Saharan Africa, around 30%. But without the ability to read, write, or comprehend simple text in your mother tongue, fostering digital skills is next to impossible. Literacy educators also often lack adequate training and ongoing professional development to integrate technology into literacy instruction. On the other hand, digital skills need to become an integral part of the expanded definition of literacy due to the dominance of technology in our life. Unfortunately, according to the recent ITU report, still 33% of the global population remain unconnected to the internet. Access to devices and internet is imperative for the development of digital skills. Without such access, individuals, both young and old, cannot become digitally literate citizens, meaning they lack the capacity to access, manage, understand, integrate, communicate, evaluate, and create information safely and effectively through digital technologies for employment, decent jobs, and entrepreneurship. Literacy, therefore, cannot be supported by digital tools unless three key aspects are addressed. First one was connectivity, capacity, and content. Connectivity entails ensuring universal access to devices and internet connectivity. Capacity refers to the essential digital skills and competences required by educators, learners, school leaders, and families to support their lifelong learning endeavors. Content encompasses the provision of high-quality, freely accessible digital materials on public digital learning platforms, ensuring equitable access to top-notch online learning resources for all learners. The speakers today will explore all three areas and their interrelationship. Today's webinar is one of UIL's many efforts to support countries in their work to create lifelong learning systems, especially those lacking fundamental literacy skills. Your engagement with the Global Alliance for Literacy contributes to sharing ideas and addressing these challenges. I hope that this webinar will help not only to take stock of very promising technology-enabled literacy programs, but also to inspire all of us on how to harness the potential of digital tools for more effective and inclusive literacy learning. I would like to thank the speakers for their contributions to this really important work. I extend my gratitude to all participants for joining this webinar, and I wish you all a rich discussion and a very fruitful exchange of ideas. Thank you very much, and I'd like to give the floor now back to my colleague, Lakat.
Thank you so much, Director Kemp, for opening remarks of this webinar. I would like now to, before introducing to the agenda of webinar today, I would like to give you some housekeeping information. Please kindly note that this webinar will be recorded. You may have received already notification, and the photos will be taken during this webinar for the social media promotion of the webinar. At the end of the second session, if time allows, we will have an open question and answer session where participants from Gulf countries will have the priority to ask questions from the speakers or provide their comments. You can also use the chat box to post your comments and questions during this webinar. Lastly, please ensure that your microphone is muted to facilitate the smooth progression of the webinar. Back to the agenda, we'll begin now with the session number 1, which will be focusing on national initiatives that have integrated technologies and digital tools into literacy provision. And later in session 2, we will engage in a panel discussion on the impact and the support of technology in literacy from the research and private sector perspective. My colleagues, Tidiane Chal from UNESCO Field Office in Dakar, Senegal, as well as the second colleague, Zaki, will be moderating these 2 sessions. I would like to thank them. And I would like to invite Tidiane to moderate the session number 1. Over to you, Tidiane.
Bonjour Akat, bonjour à tout le monde ou bonsoir selon le fuseau horaire. Et je suis donc Tidiane Sall, coordonnateur du programme CAP-EDI au niveau du bureau multisectoriel de l'UNESCO à Dakar. D'emblée, je voudrais remercier la GAL pour avoir associé le bureau multisectoriel de Dakar, remercier également les intervenants pour leur générosité et également remercier la GAL pour la confiance placée donc en notre modeste personne. Alors, quelques évidences, je crois que ça a été déjà dit par la directrice sur la centralité du numérique aujourd'hui comme une des compétences dans le cadre des référentiels de compétences et de détermination de l'analphabète, du critère donc, de définition de l'analphabète ou de l'alphabet dans le monde. Si nous continuons déjà, aujourd'hui, nous continuons à utiliser des supports physiques dans le cadre de nos interactions pédagogiques, il est évident que de plus en plus le digital prend sa place dans le cadre de nos espaces pédagogiques.
Désolé.
Et de cela,
Tidiane.
nous pouvons citer les plateformes, les réseaux sociaux, comme on l'a dit, mais également des médias classiques comme la télévision et la radio. Mais est-ce que c'est le cas partout dans le monde? Je crois que c'est à cette question que nous tenterons de répondre en partageant donc l'expérience de certains des 30 pays de la GAL dans la dynamique de consolidation et de construction de la société de savoir conformément aux idéaux donc, de l'UNESCO. Sans tarder, nous allons donc passer la parole à 4 pays qui vont partager leurs expériences. Il s'agira du Maroc, de l'Indonésie, du Sénégal et de l'Inde. Juste rappeler les dispositions pratiques, comme l'a fait tout à l'heure Rakat, qu'il est possible de réagir dans le chat, mais qu'il y aura un moment de partage donc de questions-réponses qui seront adressées aux différents animateurs. Merci juste de préciser à qui la question est adressée. Et également, aux intervenants, vous aurez droit à 8 minutes pour présenter donc votre intervention. Donc, sans tarder, je donne la parole à l'intervenant du Maroc. Il s'agit de Madame Tifriti, excusez-moi si j'ai écorné votre nom, de l'Institut de formation au métier de l'alphabétisation.
So we will give the floor to our Moroccan representative. Unfortunately,
Voilà,
the interpreter hears her voice.
Merci beaucoup. Vous avez la parole donc pour 10 minutes.
We're trying to fix the problem.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Tidiane. Tout d'abord, bonjour tout le monde. Je remercie l'UL, l'UNESCO
We'd like to thank
et
UAL,
également
UNESCO.
pour cette présentation, pour cette invitation. Donc, je partagerai mon écran, si vous permettez. Ah, d'accord, ça serait fait.
Excusez-moi, Tifitri, je pense qu'il y a un problème avec l'interprétation. Donc, on va essayer de régler ça. D'ailleurs, c'est mon collègue Antoine qui va partager l'écran. Ou alors, si c'est souhaité, voilà, c'est aussi possible comme ça.
Je peux le partager si ça ne dérange pas.
Oui, bien sûr, pas de problème.
Oui. Est-ce que c'est bon, là?
Je pense que l'interprétation n'est pas encore revenue.
Je vois votre écran.
Très bien.
Allez-y.
Est-ce que le
Est-ce que
technicien, est-ce qu'il
l'interprétation
a
est
pu
réglée? Oui.
remettre l'interprétation?
Donc, je remercie Gaël pour associer le Maroc en tant que pays membre et
Un
l'Agence
instant, s'il vous
nationale de
plaît.
lutte. Oui,
Un instant,
ok,
s'il vous plaît.
ok.
Anna, est-ce que c'est réglé ou pas?
Ils sont en train de le régler, je pense. Je m'excuse.
Euh,
Alors là, il paraît que l'icône est revenue. Alors, je crois que c'est bon, Tifitri, on peut y aller.
Merci beaucoup.
D'accord.
Allez-y.
Merci à vous. Donc, je remercie l'UNESCO, l'UL pour l'invitation égale, l'Alliance, d'avoir associé le Maroc pour participer à ce webinaire. Donc, la présentation, c'est l'utilisation de la technologie en alphabétisation, le cas de l'Agence nationale de lutte contre l'analphabétisme au Maroc. Donc, la présentation se déroulera excusez-moi, sur 4 points essentiels: le contexte de l'alphabétisation au Maroc, l'introduction, l'utilisation de des nouvelles technologies en alphabétisation, l'Institut de formation métier d'Alpha et les opportunités et les défis rencontrés au niveau de l'Alpha au Maroc. Donc, tout d'abord, je représente l'Agence nationale de lutte contre l'analphabétisme, qui est un établissement public sous la tutelle du chef de gouvernement marocain. Créée depuis 2007, elle a pour mission principale la proposition au gouvernement euh, des programmes d'alphabétisation, comme mission aussi la coordination avec les différents acteurs nationaux pour la mise en œuvre des programmes d'alpha et la réalisation des services liés à l'alphabétisation qui concernent l'élaboration et la production des outils didactiques et des programmes destinés aux apprenants, l'organisation des formations professionnelles et aussi la mise en œuvre, le suivi de la mise en œuvre des programmes d'alphabétisation au profit des apprenants analphabètes. Donc, le cadre d'intervention.
Learners. So, what is the overall context? Well, we have both an international and a national context in which we are operating. There are a number of different elements that are part of this context in vision. We have the strategic vision between 2015 and 2030, which guides the system for national training. We have the framework legislation 5117. This is a reform of the educational and training system. Then we have the new development model that really focuses on the best possible use made of human resources and capital. We have the governmental program stretching over 2021 to 2026. Then we also have the Confitea conference that gave rise to the Marrakesh framework for action. And we have a royal letter that was sent by the King of Morocco to the Confitea 7 conference. And we really insisted on the strengthening of literacy and the educational and training system at national level. Now, all of these systems, of course, further enrich the national literacy strategy stretching until 2035. And we have the national agency who has been working since 2023 and will work until 2027. That's its mandate. There are 20 different projects that have been developed in order to promote literacy and to fight against illiteracy. all of these stakeholders are working towards reducing the illiteracy rate at national level in order to eradicate it by 2030. That's the purpose, by speeding up the rate of our operations in literacy programs, by ensuring the quality and relevance of said programs, and by also increasing the provision of literacy offering for the whole community of learners, of course. What are our main purposes? The permanent purposes are to strengthen the quality of the different literacy programs, to improve the visibility as well as recognition of these literacy programs, and also trying to really capitalize on the skills achieved by the learners. We also wish to reduce social and economic inequalities by improving access to education for all and by promoting an active involvement of citizens in the economic, social, and cultural lives of our country. And of course, whilst at the same time strengthening the quality of the learnings of citizens by diversifying the learning methods, by adopting active methods, and also by developing a digital offering for remote learning. And this, of course, will complement and supplement the face-to-face literacy operations and actions that are undertaken. So what are the findings? What are the conclusions that we've reached in our agency? Well, for example, we have more and more illiterate individuals that have been targeted by the roadmap. We have more than 1 million illiterate individuals to be trained on an annual basis. We also have a number of constraints that are associated to absenteeism in face-to-face or classroom classes. Some categories of the population, farmers, for example, when at the time of harvest, will not send their children to school. We also have technological advances and the different operations in which the government is engaged for the development of digital skills and the motivation of learners and the use of smartphones and other ICTs at the national level. All of these elements have, in fact, led to the integration and use of technology and the new technologies in general in order to implement literacy programs. The national agency fighting against illiteracy has also worked towards introducing new technologies in literacy programs in other ways, with good governance of literacy programs. And we can also look at the different media that are used for literacy purposes. When it comes to governance, first of all, we have dematerialization of administrative processes and the processes used for managing programs. The agency has decided to implement the information and program management system in the agency will manage the programs and partnerships with civil society, which will implement the literacy programs. We also decided to implement a system for archival management, a center of resources and experts learning in partnership with UNESCO. We have a geographic information system that gives us a vision, and we know exactly where the illiterate individuals are across the territory. We could see this on the map of the kingdom. We also have a system recording claims or complaints filed by the different stakeholders. And we're currently working on an integrated management system. In addition to the introduction of new technologies into the governance of literacy programs, we've also introduced new technologies when it comes to digitizing the programs. And we've also diversified the different media and learning methods for the greater good of learners. The agency decided to develop mobile apps. We digitized some literacy programs. We have 5 apps that can be downloaded from Play Store. We have Alpha Noor for craftsmen amongst the craftsmen's community. We have Alpha Thai, which is another app, another mobile app. It's the second level of numeracy. We have Alpha Baha for the Navy and Alpha Fela for farmers who are illiterate. So different target groups, and they will be able to complete their learnings, of course, in addition to the other face-to-face classroom literacy courses that they follow. In addition to this, we've developed capsules and recording courses. About 155 different videos and courses have been recorded, and they could be shared with the different regions and partners so that they may be disseminated and so that they may be used in the different literacy classes. They could be shared with the adults, trainers, and educators. We also developed some televised literacy courses. So we have a program that is broadcast. It's a cultural TV channel, and we use this channel in order to broadcast the literacy program. In addition to this, we have a training platform and the Kriya Center that are open to the different players and stakeholders involved in remote learning, remote training. Again, we're talking here only about literacy programs. In addition to integrating programs in literacy programs, the agency has also worked on introducing the new technologies for the professionals and for the different speakers. And this has been done. We're very sorry. We're going to ask you to keep an eye on your watch. Could you please conclude? Just a few more minutes. So the agency has also worked towards setting up the training center for literacy professions. This is an institute that is a part of the partnership with UNESCO. It's part of delegated management, and we got some funding from the European Union. The IFMA Institute is an inclusive institute. It is a standard-setting instrument. We set up a number of different criteria for quality education. It is adaptable and it is modular. Unfortunately, there is no sound anymore. We have connection issues, it would seem. And unfortunately, she's already exceeded her speaking time. So we would like to thank her very much. We've heard her communication. Tifri, can you hear us? Can you hear us? She has connection issues, it would seem. So just a little summary of what she's already said. Her presentation was articulated around 4 different points. We had a presentation. No, we're fine. You had a technical issue, it would seem. We would like to thank you very much for having shared this very relevant presentation. Thank you for sharing the initiatives that have been developed in Morocco. We will share the presentation subsequently. And I'm sure that you will get a number of questions. Just to remind you that your presentation was around 4 points. The first one was the presentation of ANALCA, the 3 different missions. And then we talked about the operating context that is directly in sync with the Moroccan strategy and your purposes. Then the use of new technologies with a number of findings. The advances of technology. Then you talked about governance, different modalities that are followed, different methodologies. That's a very important key part in your presentation. The TV courses, the different platforms for distance learning and training. And then you finished. We didn't hear everything because of a sound problem. You talked about the Training Institute. So once again, we would like to thank you very much indeed for this very generous sharing. And then we can move on to the next speaker. And I'm sure that others will ask you questions. Thank you very much anyway. And we will now like to hand over to Johan.
It's the Director General of Early Education, Childhood Education, Primary Education and Secondary Education from the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology, and he's going to share his experience and learning. Mr. Sahir, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us for Indonesia to share our experience, our journey in digital technology. I just have to mention that my team prepared 32 slides, so I am going to skip a lot of slides. I just want to go straight to the point related to the topic that we have today. Next slide, please. Next slide. So first, I just want to highlight again, I think the journey of each country is situated within their context, and in our context, we have quite a big challenges in terms of not only the number of the students, the teachers. We have 50 million students, more than 3 million teachers, and more than 200,000 schools. But also we have a geographic situation spread in this archipelago, 17,000 islands, and in which, in terms of education transformation, there is no other way rather than investing in technology. So I think our government since 2019 already decided in terms of education, technology is one of the ways to accelerate the transformation. Next slide, please. We define our problem in terms of learning crisis. To problem solve this was the major goal of the Ministry of Education in Indonesia. In 2018, based on the PISA results, we learned that 70% of our 15-year-olds showed below competency level in terms of literacy and numeracy, and this is a big wake-up call for us. Next slide, please. However, we also had to face the pandemic, which exacerbate the learning loss. So this is also the situation that we also had to face when we decided to problem solve the learning crisis, especially literacy and numeracy. We had to deal with the pandemic. Next slide, please. Indonesia is one of the countries because of our decentralized. We have 552 autonomous local governments. It's very difficult in terms of school opening during the COVID. So we are one of the countries with the longest school closures, which I think in the calculation for predicted learning losses make it very, very tough or challenging for us. Next slide, please. So what a transformation, especially in technology and literacy. Next slide. I want to highlight in 2019, when we learned that we had to problem solve the learning crisis, we have a vision, and we call this emancipated learning. In short, this goal push us to focus on the students and especially how they can be useful and also productive citizens, very competent, and also lifelong learners with the spirit of lifelong learners with strong characteristic traits based on our national ideology called Pancasila. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. So one of the strategies that we decided from early in 2019, from the very beginning, was the commitment to foundational learning. In this case, literacy and numeracy was the foundation of what makes a lifelong learners that we envision for our human capital in the future. So first, what we did was we developed a national assessment that focusing on literacy and numeracy and also school climate. So to measure where we are, we cannot know our progress without a measurement that we can rely on. The second is we change the curriculum. We make the curriculum more flexible. We cut down the content from the previous curriculum up to 40%. And then we make the alignment also to the university entrance exam to make sure that all the way from the early childhood to secondary education, we are aligned, not being driven by tests oriented, especially in the university tests. So we also make alignment with this, making sure that the basic and secondary education really focus on foundational learning. Next slide, please. So in order to support this, we transform the pre-service teacher education. And then we create, the second one is we create a new generation of school leaders. They are the instructional leaders that will help, especially how to improve the situation with the foundational learning in our schools. And then we encourage our school ecosystem to be engaged in professional learning communities, not only among schools, but also within the school. So in Indonesia, this is This was like a new concept that introduced, being pushed to each school to form a professional learning community. Next slide, please. And what we do when we have the national assessment data nationally, we provide targeted interventions for schools with low literacy scores. So the national assessment is developed using technology, and then we collected the data, and then we did intervention according to the data. Especially we target the school with the lowest literacy achievement. What we did was we provide extra tutoring. We send 108 university students in total now. This is now is already in the second batch, but in total it's 108,000 student tutors from the university. So to help schools with low literacy scores, and we send more than 15 million storybooks. These are the books that we curate, and they are high quality in terms of they are relevant to what the students like, what kids like. So to improve the culture of reading, the love of reading from early childhood and elementary school. And then we train the teachers, the principals, and librarians about how to read aloud and all the techniques to engage to create a culture of reading in school. And we also provide higher school grants to schools in most struggling places. Most of them have low literacy scores. Next slide, please. So these are the three platforms that we mainly use in the basic and secondary education and help the ecosystem to move forward, especially to improve the condition of the foundational learning qualities. So we have Rapor Pendidikan, the first one, is this education report card. Sipla is for the procurement platform, and Merdeka Belajar, Merdeka Mengajar is the platform for the teachers and school principals to help them with the teaching and learning and also school management. Next slide, please. So first, I'd like to talk actually about the teacher platform. Basically, this platform now has been used by more than 3 million teachers and 1 million active users every month. Are divided between three things: platform for teachers to learn, so ready-to-use models. There's also diagnostic assessment for literacy and numeracy. And then they use ready-to-use models to teach at the right level with different topics from all levels. And also for them to help them to also improve or for their own learning, professional development for teachers, and also to share. Interestingly, sharing is actually the most benefit for teachers to be engaged in this platform. So they learn from other teachers, they create community PLCs, and they share their best practices here. And because our very diverse educational context, teachers and schools learn from each other, then they love this feature, and there are more than 700,000 self-generated content already uploaded and also verified by us to make sure there's no plagiarism. And this help the community or the teachers to learn from each other. Next slide, please. With the educational report card, actually what we have here is that this is the platform where we show the national assessment data in form of a very user-friendly interface. So this is an app-based platform because it's very accessible, although we have challenges in technology, but usually our ecosystem, our stakeholders find less anxiety when it is based on the mobile phone. And we use this as an advantage to penetrate with technology. So then the local governments, we have 552 autonomous local government, can see the situation in their local government and then can plan and budget accordingly based on the scores in the national assessment data, and then they can allocate resources accordingly. School principals can look at the situation of their school and also can plan and budget accordingly. So this help orient all the stakeholders to problem solve the most fundamental aspects, especially in terms of foundational skills, literacy and numeracy. Next slide, please. Next slide. So Next slide. So I just want to share with you what we've learned in terms of the results or the impact so far. We have a lot of work to go, but there is signs of recovery in our national assessment in 2021. In terms of literacy achievement, 53% have minimum competency level in literacy, and in 2022. The national assessment results show that there is an increase to 58%. In terms of numeracy, and this is already a mistake here, the 33%, only 33% met the minimum competency level in numeracy, and it increased to 44% in 2022. Next slide. And we also learned from our PISA results. And overall, all around the world, there is a decline in terms of learning outcomes due to the pandemic. But even so, in terms of our ranking in PISA, we rose 5 to 6 points, positions compared to 2018. And this is due to the resilience of the ecosystem. I think using the technology that we have transformed to help the teacher and the ecosystem to move together and have the common purpose, especially on literacy and numeracy. Next slide, please.
Monsieur Iwan.
I think that's all for my presentation. I'll stop here. Thank you very much. And I'll give back to the moderator.
Merci. Merci beaucoup. Ça vous tombe bien.
Thank you very much. That was perfect timing. Thank you very much for that very, very instructive presentation. You reminded us about the very specific context in Indonesia and the challenges the country is faced with, given its size, its geographical distribution. And you've talked about the use of technology to overcome those challenges. You also spoke about your education transformation experiences, and you also talked about the assessment of skills which enabled you to implement benchmarks which are aligned right through to the university level. And this enabled you to elaborate further programs. And then you also mentioned very targeted actions using university students, sending them to schools, and also publishing manuals to help teach literary skills using platforms as well. That also fosters a community. And then also the report card that you mentioned that helps with governance. And all of these initiatives are extremely positive and help to increase minimum proficiency levels. Thank you very much for this brilliant presentation. And this is exactly what we're expecting. And I think that there are experiences that can be shared with other GAL countries. Without further ado, I'd like to give the floor to our speaker from Senegal, who's going to talk to us about the experiences in his countries as it relates to integrating technologies into literacy programs. This is Mr. Dame Sek, who is an educational inspector at the Department of Literacy and National Languages, part of the Ministry of National Education in Senegal. Mr. Sek, you have the floor. Thank you very much, Dr. Tidiane. Thank you very much for that very warm welcome. And I would like to also thank all of the countries involved and also GAL organizers for their contributions. I will get straight to the point because I only have 8 minutes. I am an educational inspector and I work for the Literacy and National Languages Department at the Ministry of National Education in Senegal. Next slide, please. So the first question that was asked of us, just bear with me, I seem to be experiencing some problems. Right, so to what extent does your national program use digital technologies to improve literacy scores among young people and adults? Next slide. So there were two further questions that we've also included here. So I just mentioned the first question, and that was to what extent our national program uses digital technologies to improve literacy scores among young people and adults. The second question, how does the national program seek to ensure that digital technologies are accessible and inclusive for young and adult learners? And the third question, and the final question, what policies or strategies have been implemented at the national level to support the application or the use of digital technologies in literacy? Next slide, please. We can move to the next slide, please. Thank you. In Senegal, we have a program that seeks to improve equity and transparency. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this national program, which seeks to improve quality, equity, and transparency, includes in its strategic planning ITCs to strengthen the learning environments by implementing ITCs for education in our education centres for young people and adults. To strengthen the capacities of literacy educators and of non-formal education in Senegal, we have bilingual documents that are applied to ITCs to manage learnings in our traditional Quranic schools called daras. Until very recently, these schools were part of our EBGA program. And just a few months ago, these programs were transformed and changed direction. So one of the 12 training modules of versatile teachers and facilitators in literacy is entitled ITCs applied to the EBGA. So in our training, and this is in our training for the formal sector, within the modules, we include ITCs. Next slide. Next slide, please. Now, still dealing with the first question. So how does our national curriculum use technologies to improve learning? So we have created more than 90 audio capsules, and these audio capsules have been translated into the 6 main codified languages. So that includes Wolof, Serer, Joola, Pulaar, Mandinka, and Soninke. So those are the 6 main codified languages in Senegal. When a language is codified in our country, it then has the status of national language. That is to say that the language can be written and is able to be taught in schools. So we have worked with stakeholders right across the country, and these capsules have been used for over 5 months, and these are used particularly, or were used particularly during the COVID crisis. We also have USB sticks that have the 14 decrees that pertain to all of the 6 codified languages, and which explain how these languages are written. And this means that there are standards when it comes to writing in our country. So we've gone from transcription to writing. And now we're able to write these languages. And for these codified languages, there are 14 decrees. So Wolof, Serer, Balant, Hassania, Joolard, Pulaar, Mandinka, Manjuka, Mankan, Menik, Non, Onyan, Safi Safi, and Soninke. And we have practical guides for facilitators and for educators that are involved in literacy training for women, young people, and adults. And all of these decrees were loaded onto a USB key and were distributed to the relevant stakeholders. We also use digital networks. All experts at the national level that are involved in language teaching can join a WhatsApp group, and they are able to have answers to technical questions when it comes to literacy. Next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the second question, how does the national curriculum ensure that digital technologies are accessible and inclusive for young and adult learners? It should be noted that national languages resources have been produced as part of the Learn at Home initiative and is distributed through the Education Channel, which is a channel that is the exclusive ownership of the National Education Ministry of Senegal. We have community radios that ensure that teaching is continuous and was continuous during the COVID-19 pandemic. And these resources were also uploaded on to tablets so as to try to circumvent any obstacles pertaining to connectivity. Because depending on where you are located, sometimes you can have connectivity issues, and therefore there were regions that could not access the internet. Therefore, we provided these resources on a tablet so that whether they had a connection or not, we could provide some continuity as it relates to teaching and learning. USB keys containing educative resources by UNESCO were also provided. Next slide, please. So, let's continue with the second question. So why did we ensure that training centres for educators were equipped and prepared to use ITCs in an adequate way? Well, this was to ensure that teachers were able to benefit from training and upskilling, professional upskilling, so that they are au fait with the teaching innovations that leverage technology. We implemented networks and platforms that allow teachers to share their experiences and to share approaches that could be useful to their peers and to other stakeholders. Next slide. Next slide, please. Now, as relates to the policies and strategies implemented at the national level, the National Education Ministry in Senegal had already begun to implement a digital education strategy. Thank you. I shall try to conclude. And so this strategy led to the information system of the National Education Ministry and the National Education Ministry's project for the development of remote learning. These structures use the internet, television, mobile telephone, digital recordings, and multimedia. I mentioned these earlier on. Next slide, please. So, as it relates to educational resources in digital format that were uploaded onto tablets, I should now like to speak about the objectives. We need to ensure that we empower women, to ensure that we foster equality to bridge this digital divide. We also need to ensure that we build a national society for learning and that we also diversify the various fields of learning. We should implement an open school strategy. We must also develop a platform for basic education for young people and adults, and also digitalize tools and data for basic education for young people and adults. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation, which enabled us to share and hear more about Senegal's experience. Senegal, which is part of the PENIFJA program, which seeks to improve literacy, basic education among young people and adults, leveraging technology. And we see that thanks to some applications, you have been able to launch versatile teacher training using audio capsules, USB sticks, you used a community radio, etc. And you also mentioned teacher training to ensure that this policy is maintained through platforms and networks, and then there's also the pooling of Senegalese expertise as it relates to the development of national languages. And you are also led by the national strategy with the IT system for remote learning, which uses web, multimedia, telephone recordings to ensure that there is access to learning. And then you also mentioned in your conclusion the perspectives or prospects to increase the use of digital media. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for sharing those contributions so that for the other speakers and participants. Now, to speak about best practices of leveraging ICT for learning, we're going to hear from the National Institute of Open Schooling in India with Mr. Rajiv Kumar Singh. I apologize if I pronounce poorly your name. You have the floor, Mr. Singh, and you have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saul. From the land of, I extend my namaskar with both my folded hands to Miss Isabel Kempf, the Director, Institute of Life, Miss Rakhat, Team Leader, Institute of Lifelong Learning, UNESCO, Mr. Sal, Moderator of the session, my fellow panelists, the entire UL UNESCO team, including Anna and Poorna, and ladies and gentlemen witnessing the session. I'm Dr. Rajiv Kumar Singh from National Institute of Open Schooling, which is an autonomous body of Ministry of Education, Government of India. In my presentation, I'm going to deliberate into 3 parts. Number 1, how my organization is involved in implementing various life in the country, the challenges my organization has encountered while implementing the lifelong literacy program in the country, and the leveraging of technology has become a game changer in the country, and finally the lessons learned out of that. I would like to declare, and probably that's going to carry interest for all the listeners, that I'm going to share my last thanks slide within the stipulated time frame of 8 minutes.
Merci.
Yeah. As we know, and as we are the largest open schooling system in the world, we are having around 9,000 study centers, and we operate through these 9,000 study centers not only in the country, but also across the globe. As literacy program in the country is concerned, we had a basic literacy program. Basic literacy program is basically to cater the functional literacy of the adult illiterates who cannot pursue the functional literacy because of one or the other regions. ANAS was declared as a certifying agency to carry out assessment and the certification for this basic literacy program. Till the date, we had around 100 million adult neoliterates who enrolled for this basic literacy program, and out of million adult illiterates, 76.30 million were certified as literates. We had a PMG Disha program also. Basically, the PMG Disha program was Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Saksharta Abhiyan. And the main aim and objective of this program is to enable the citizens in the rural areas for using the ICT and related applications, especially the digital payments. Till date, 16 million adult neoliterates have been certified as digital and the functional literates. It was totally an online program which was providing end-to-end solutions since enrollment till issuance of the certification has been carried out by a digital platform. Even the assessment has also been carried out through remote proctoring. The content was made accessible, available to the adult illiterates on a digital platform. Various multiple approaches were adopted to disseminate the content. ANAS is having 5 direct-to-home satellite TV channels. We are disseminating the content through TV channels, radio. We are having our own ANAS YouTube channel. The self-paid for the adult illiterates are energized, wherein the video and the audio tutorials have been integrated within the textbook or the self. How technology and leveraging of technology can be a game changer, I would like to share an example. In 2016, after the implementation of this PMG Disha program in the country, the government of India has brought a concept called Unified Payment Interface Gateway. And you will be surprised to know that around 50% of the total payment transaction what are being made in the country right now are through UPI. With the usage of UPI with one innovation, which is so remarkable, that has put such a great impact on the financial economy of the country, that GDP is being transacted through UPI mode. The uses of in the form of debit cards, credit cards, cash transaction has taken a very minimum transaction route in the country. In 2016, when this UPI was introduced, only 1 million transaction has occurred through this UPI interface, whereas in 2022, 100 billion transactions have taken place this through UPI interface. The digital payment through UPI are being used by street vendors. Those who are illiterates, they do not have any foundational literacy, but they are so tech savvy that they are using this digital platform with very much of ease. We have also encountered a certain challenges while implementing the various literacy programs through conventional and the traditional methods. We were not able to find out if agencies or the local worked harder on it, and we started implementing those functional literacy programs through 1,300 accredited agencies throughout the country. We too had a issue of slow speed of internet access, but the government has put up a very well infrastructure in place in the country. Now the internets are available at a dirt cheap. The internet has, and the digital divide has been bridged. Now the internet has reached to each and every nook and corner, even the remotest part of the country. The issues of nets and the accessibility was also encountering when we were imparting this literacy lifelong learning programs through conventional and the digital modes. Now, government of new lifelong learning program in the name of Education for All in the year 2022. This program is going to be implemented on a hybrid mode basis, but majority of these components are being made available on the digital platform, which is online teaching learning assessment system. This Atlas platform end-to-end solution pertaining to implementation of this New India Literacy Program in the country. And this New India Literacy Program is going to have 5 components. It's going to have foundational literacy and numeracy, critical life skills, basic education, and the continuing education in the form of secondary and the senior secondary program. This is very important. The lesson what we have learned, this is very important to understand the background of the clientele. The socio-economic, socio-political, socio-geographical background of the target group requires to be identified, requires to be recognized, and accordingly the ICT platform requires to be utilized to cater the requirement of those identified target groups. Geography could be bridged with the uses of ICT. The implementation strategy also requires to be the requirement and as per the ICT, newer ICTs coming up in the market. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sal.
Merci infiniment pour cette présentation très.
Well, thank you so much for this very interesting presentation. As was the case for the other presentations, we could see that here, indeed, we are in an institute that is open to the rest of the world with more than 500 different centers, and we could see that certifications are issued with the 60 million individuals who were certified via a platform with the use of televisions, tutorials. We could see that the ITCs can really be a game changer, as you said. And there were challenges at the beginning, especially accessibility was an issue, but then towards the end, we understood that this has been solved in the meantime, and everybody now has a possibility to connect in every nook and corner, and this offers opportunities to work in a hybrid mode. Lots of lessons learned, as you said, but basically the relevance of drawing inspiration from the needs of the learners. So it's demand-driven, and we also said that the use of technologies neutralizes the remoteness or the differences, geographic differences. All of that are the lessons that we learned. So these were the 4 presentations that we wanted to hear as part of session 1 this morning. It is now possible maybe to draw a number of lessons from what we've heard so far. First of all, the need and relevance of always having a national policy as well as a national strategy. Secondly, we want to have equity at the forefront to ensure accessibility for a qualitative and effective transformation of educational systems. We also understand that it is necessary to train the teachers also through continuous training, not just initial training, as was said by the representative of Indonesia. From Morocco, we also understood that there are lots of media and supports that can be used and lots of resources that can be used. And Senegal also said this with the capsules and the different forms and shapes taken on by the literacy programs. And the last speaker said that it was very important indeed to design some engineering to identify the actual needs, specific needs of the learning communities, and we can use the ITCs today to neutralize a number of difficulties, including the geographical differences. I think when we close, we will be able to, again, draw on the different lessons learned. But it was very important also to hear all of these presentations. This will fuel the discussion, the in-depth discussion onto what the content should be. And if you have more questions, of course, you could talk directly to the speakers. I would like to thank you very much for your kind attention, and we will now move on to the second session, and I'd like to thank the speakers once again.
Thank you very much.
You have the floor, sir. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And now, participants and speakers in this session, now we come to the next session. In this session, we will hear from our panelists who represent academia, development organizations, and the private sectors on how technology impacts and supports literacy. They will share their insights from different angles, such as equity, inclusion, and also integrational learning. And our first speaker tonight is this morning or this afternoon is Ms. Jen Vanek, Director of Digital Learning and Research at Tech Center from World Education. Ms. Jen will be focusing on the intersections of education, technology, and literacy, and will also emphasize on the importance of placing learners' need at the forefront of literacy intervention, where technology is being used in this context. In this context, I want to ask the first question to Ms. Vanek. Yes, Ms. Vanek, I have a question to you. How can educators keep equity at the forefront when they integrate the vast range of technological options for literacy learning at these situations today? You have 5 minutes.
Good morning, and I would like to make sure everyone can hear me.
Yes, loud
yes,
and clear.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation to speak here and to share some of the past work that I have done personally and that my colleagues at the EdTech Center at World Education have done. So in answer to your question, I think it is very important to have an equity focus when making decisions about EdTech integration. We must begin with an understanding of learners' current digital skills, their beliefs about technology use, and the access that they have to digital technologies. Then after thinking about learners, you need to explore the different EdTech options to make decisions based on those factors about access and need. This means that you may not be able to rush into the use of a new technology tool. Rather, you need to stop, pause, and determine what the learner's strengths and access are, and then build on them. Gradually increasing the complexity of digital technologies used in instruction in a manner that simultaneously helps learners build digital literacy. The goal is for learners to eventually become more comfortable taking on the digital technologies they encounter as they complete tasks in school, work, and civic life. This is what we call digital resilience. So through my past work, I have encountered several examples that you might imagine as steps for how to work in this way. So first, as I said, you need to survey your learners to better understand their current digital literacy and digital access and their strengths, as we say. You could do this by using a digital competency framework, something like DigComp 2.0, which is very popular in Europe. We have also at World Education developed a new digital skills framework called the Bridges Framework. And with either of these frameworks, what we like is they list competencies so you can understand the digital skills that your learners might need when choosing any particular technology. And then also they offer some suggestions, resources, and strategies for teaching those digital skills. I believe all of the links that I am talking about, all the resources I'm talking about, will be shared in a link at the end of my remarks. Another thing to think about is to repeatedly use whatever the digital technology you decide to use in routines. Ed tech routines would use the same technology day after day so that learners would become accustomed to it, and teachers could gradually increase the number of tasks they require students to complete using that technology. And then also encourage learners to use that technology outside of the classroom. Another important step is to evaluate the proposed ed technology that you want to use to determine how feasible it is for you to implement in your own setting. You need to be always thinking about that learner to see if they do have access to the tools and make sure they understand how to use them. And then if the tool meets the need and your learners have the skills and access to use them, you could move forward. Another thing to consider is that it's very important to make ed tech resources easy for educators to locate. For example, in Cambodia, we've created a digital education inventory, which lists all of the technologies that adult educators or secondary educators or secondary education teachers have available to them to teach using technology. And in a minute, you can read a report that explains our Cambodia digital education landscape. Finally, you need to introduce one tool at a time. Don't overwhelm learners with many new tools to help digital tools in the classroom. Start with one. As learners gain comfort, then you can start with another. And then when possible, always integrate the digital tools into your classroom or into classrooms that learners might encounter in their daily lives. It's very important for adults to contextualize use of a tool in a manner that makes it seem relevant. So if you know that your adults have access to WhatsApp, your adult learners are using WhatsApp or Telegram or something like that, use that in your classroom because they have already demonstrated confidence with that. Some of my earliest research on this topic was with Somali youth in a refugee education program in the United States. And we knew that these youth were using Facebook along their migration path. So we integrated Facebook into their English language arts classroom and were able to generate rich learning for them because we did that. In another example, we knew that community caseworkers in our work in Malawi were using these paper PDFs as they went into homes with children who have HIV. It was very hard to carry the paper. It got damaged. It was hard to update them. So we helped digitize those job aids. And because we knew the caseworkers had phones and had internet, at least periodically, they could download the PDFs onto their phone and actually make use of the content to help them in their work as community caseworkers. Finally, it's very important to integrate the technology vocabulary that you know that learners are going to need to understand instruction and ask directions, ask questions about how to use a technology. In some of my earliest research, we noticed that when you focus on some vocabulary, teaching words in the language that is important to learners about how things like browser, internet, generative AI, these technologies are very important for learners to be able to talk about if they are to use them. And then finally, I encourage you to find access to technical assistance. Through my work with the US Department of Education, we have created a technical assistance resource library. And you can find many more examples for supporting policy and classroom technology integration. So I thank you for giving me the time to share about my work.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wen. It is very interesting, like to really understand psychologically, like how the learners, like a capacity understanding on the digital literacy and also digital technology before we implement our digital learning or digital platform activities. Thank you so much. And I think there is one point that you stressed on, like please use one tool at one time. Don't make it more complicated in order to have better understanding by the students. Thank you so much for sharing. Now I will move to the next speaker. Our next speaker is Mr. Jacob Simbi, Professor Jacob Simbi from the Department of Psychology, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, University of Zambia, Lusaka, Zambia. Mr. Nisimbi will speak about the effects of using a phone-based mobile literacy game, or they call it GREPOM game, to improve literacy skills in children and adults in the rural family settings in Zambia. We have now Professor Jacob Simbi with us, and then I have the questions, Professor. I hope it is fine with you. The question is in today's world, mobile phones are an essential part of our daily lives, particularly to access information and learning opportunities. And then I need you to respond, how has phone-based learning contributed to improve literacy levels within the rural families in Zambia? And what are the key insights that you can share from your research and experience? Professor Nzimbi, you have the floor now.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We can hear you loud and
clear. Thank you so. All right, thank you so much for this opportunity to share what I've discovered so far with regard to use of mobile technology to improve learning in children. So first of all, I'm not yet professor. I'm just affiliated with the University of Zambia. I'm actually currently doing a PhD study with the University of Jyväskylä in Finland. We've had a long relationship with the University of Jyväskylä, where we got this mobile technology that we've been using in our country to improve literacy in our children. So initially when we started, we had partnered with them to use this game that was developed to help dyslexic children in Finland. And after so much research, we discovered that this same mobile literacy tool can be used to actually also improve literacy in all children. So we did the initial research with a group of students at Tunza, that's the University of Zambia, and we discovered that teachers as well as pupils actually benefited from this mobile game. So I took it upon myself to say, let me see how I can extend this benefit to pupils in rural areas in our country, because you might be aware that most of our rural areas are remote, and most of the children in these places do not have access to any kind of literacy material. The teachers are inadequately prepared, and so they don't really actually benefit much from the learning that they do. So we went to a rural category district in Eastern Province, and we introduced this mobile literacy tool with help from our internet provider. We call them Airtel here. They gave us phones for us to use with the children in rural areas. Now, the key thing is that we extended this tool to be used in the homes of children, because as you may be aware that in rural areas usually have distant places from the place where the children learn and to their homes. So the only time they have access to material is when they come to school. So we thought we could help these children by giving this chance for them to take these phones to go and use at home. So we invited the parents and the community, and then we explained our motive and what we are intending to do. And parents actually were very happy and were willing to participate in this program. So after we gave this tool to the children to use in the home with the parents' supervision, and we went there after 3 months, we gave them various literacy tests to find out if it was working. We compared them with the fellow pupils who are not actually part of this program, and we discovered that it actually did improve literacy amongst these children. And one key thing that came out of it is that parents also got interested in this after they saw how the children were benefiting. So a few of them actually offered to also be enrolled in this program so that they can also benefit. And we did a follow-up study now to use the same children that we had taught basic literacy, who were steadily improving, to also help their parents to actually learn as well. So we picked about eight mothers of the children that had been present in our program, which we called the Grapho game. And these children were chosen because, as you know, children are quite adept at using technology compared to their parents. And they are quick to learn. So it was easy for them to teach their parents. And I know some people might ask, say, how did you navigate the question of parents giving instructions to their parents? Because like in Africa, usually instruction comes from the mother or the parent to the child, but in this case, children were actually instructing the parents. Now, the reason is that these children were adept at using this technology, and they did help the parents to actually use this game. So we again tested these parents, and what we discovered was that parents did gain basic literacy from using this game. And what really interested us mainly is that the literacy that these children and parents were learning was not, it was actually for them to use in their local community. Because, for example, one of the parents after the program thanked us to say now she was able to read the Bible in church and share with the friends because of the skills that we have given her. So that is one of the interesting things that we learned. So this literacy too, we know that it can improve people's lives in the rural area as well as parents' lives, especially with this global climate change. The only way that these parents can benefit from literacy or from improving their lives is when they're able to get information. Now, they can't get information if they're not able to read. So it's easier also to pass on information in terms of text message, because as you know, despite it being a rural area, you find that these parents also have these basic phones which can receive text messages. So the government and any other interested party can actually send information as text message, which these parents can read and be able to help themselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think this is very interesting. Like we are working for one component, but we involve the learners and the parents as one package. So I think this is really good, like a lesson learned. And thank you so much for sharing this experience. Like hopefully this kind of approach can be applied in different areas by using all these like new technologies in education to improve the literacy of the youth and also the parents. Now, as we discussed, thank you so much once again for sharing. As we discussed the interventions in literacy instructions for the youth and adults, we need to emphasize the importance of media and information literacy. This involves fostering critical thinking skills, particularly when the news is used, for example, as authentic materials in literacy instruction. With respect to this information, now I would like to invite Ms. Sangita Mahapatra, a research fellow from German Institute for Global and Area Studies, Germany, to join with us. And then I will go with the questions to Ms. Sangita. The question is what are some practical strategies educators can employ to develop critical literacy skills among learners, especially in combating the spread of disinformation and misinformations, and how can open source tools like a fact-checking resources support this effort? Ms. Sangita, you have the floor now.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And it's my pleasure to participate in this cross-learning experience. And it was nice to hear the former speakers because we all have gathered here as information seekers, and we try to hone our critical learning tools. At the start of this discussion, Isabel made a very interesting point about building capacities. And she mentioned three important planks of building capacities. One was connectivity, another was capacity, and another was content. I would like to add a fourth stream to it, which is criticality. So when you ask me a question that how do we improve our critical learning skills, then criticality is about critical thinking. It's about how we look at an information and how do we process that information, right? Now, we have been discussing throughout this panel, as I've been listening to everyone is talking about technological tools of learning. And these are by definition socio-technical tools because they operate in a particular context. They are shaped by the understandings of that particular context. But these technologies for learning are not just socio-technical tools. They are also political tools. They are also about how we view information guided by our biases and prejudices. And as an academic, who always deals with disinformation topics and tries to deal with political polarization. When you ask me this question that how do we improve our critical learning skills? What tools do we use? It's always a challenge because we have to challenge ourselves about what are the terminologies being used? How is this image being conveyed? What is this news media trying to tell us? So when you look at an information, tools are great. How you deliver them are great, but you need to get the mindset right for the proper utilization of these tools. And for getting the mindset right, there are certain important things to consider. The first thing to consider, at least what I do as a researcher and what I tell my doctoral and master's students, that what you should do when you approach data. The first thing we need to do is to verify the data. You need to first do what we call information verification. And there are certain ground rules for it. First is to wear the spectacle of objectivity, wear the glass lens of objectivity when you see it, as much as is possible, because not all human beings are objective and human beings can't be, but as much as it is possible, because once you get your perspective right, can you approach information correctly? Can you approach the way of using a tool correctly? So when you ask me, what do I do first? There are certain tools that I can also share that later on, but there are certain tools, a basic tool that whether you're a researcher, whether you're a journalist, whether you are anyone who tries to seek the right information, is Google's fact checker. Because there, as soon as you put in the keyword search, suppose you want to find out an information you have got on WhatsApp, on even the mainstream news media, knowing that there is so much of biases baked into mainstream news media. You can take certain keywords from that information. You can take images of that from that text, whether it is shared to you on WhatsApp, or you can take the URL. And then you put that URL into the Google fact check search box, explorer box, and it will tell you whether that information, it will give you a context about that information. It will show you which fact checker has either verified it or not. That's the first basic level, just to check whether that information is correct or not. Sometimes you might not get, because there's also a politics of fact checking bias, because some people say, oh, that fact checker is too politicized. That fact checker is, objective. Again, your bias comes in. So criticality comes in here too. But you can get an average, because that tool will give you a range of fact check, what credible fact checkers have said, whether it is a misleading information, whether it's a verified information, or whether it is still disputed information that that's the first basic level, but that's not the end of the story. Now you have a lot of images. Now, how do you find out whether an image is right or not? Because text is easier to fact check than image or videos, especially in this age of generative AI. What I usually use is there is a plugin called InVid, which is a video plugin. You can download that plugin and it will go into your Chrome browser, Google Chrome browser. As soon as you have an image, you can just right click on that image. And if you have downloaded InVid, these are all free. If you download that plugin, you will immediately get a notification telling you that you can verify it with InVid, fact checking that image or find the image context. So you do that, you can do it. There are other tools too, like TinEye. There is another tool called TinEye. There is a tool called vidIQ. And there's a Russian tool also called Yandex, which is also quite interesting to use. So you can do what we call reverse image search also. You can look at it, right click and find it out. Another interesting way of finding out a data, as I said, is that when is it being posted? When is it being shared? What terminologies is the news media using? Is it something that triggers you, makes you angry, makes you excited? And it's always, like we say, emotions are good for life, but sometimes, given the age of social media, you have to be very, very careful how you respond, because we are in an age of not responding, but reacting. We react without thinking, and that can also aggravate the problem and create a circle of misinformation. So do check out credible fact-checking organizations, like who are, especially those who are certified by IFCN, but there are even many organizations that are not, but you will get a pretty good idea once you start fact checking. My point here is that all of us talk about learning, improving, honing our critical skills, but fact checking, information verification should be a habit, a matter of habit. My previous speaker spoke about how he used mobile app to inculcate this critical thinking. And that's what we are also trying to do as academic researchers who are coordinating with fact checkers. We are trying to create an app where you can fact check news like you message on WhatsApp or in any of these services. It should be something that is a habit, not that, oh, I have to go and do this hard work. No, it should be muscle memory. It should be something you instinctively do. And this is what I want to stress on all the participants here, that the age that we are living in, there is a surfeit of misinformation and disinformation. And therefore, do equip yourself with certain interesting, with the mindset and with the tech tools to fact check by habit. Now, just to end this quick talk, is that in the age of AI, there's another interesting tool. There is a surfeit of technologies that you can use. And as another participant said, stick to the one you're comfortable with. There is one called Factiverse.ai, which is a very nice tool, which is very easy to use tool for especially AI generated disinformation and misinformation. Now Google, Facebook, and all that, we have been speaking to many of the platforms regularly, and they are coming up with labels. Especially Google has already started coming up with labels telling this image is AI generated. Meta has also come out with labels telling this is AI generated. So please do keep an eye out for such kind of nudge factors, labels. So make yourself vigilant. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sangita. It's very inspiring sharing, especially like we really focus on critical learning skills for the learners, including the young people and adult. And like your strong message is to check and recheck is very important message as well. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, we are moving now on the intervention from the private sectors. As I mentioned earlier, we have the speakers from academia and then also from the international organizations. And now we will have the speaker from private sectors. We are pleased to have Khan Academy in our panel discussion today, represented by Ms. Subra Mittal, the head of Government Partnership and Programs, Khan Academy India. Ms. Subra, welcome to the session. And then I hope you're ready with the questions that I would like to address tonight or today or this morning. What role does an online learning platform like Khan Academy play in increasing access to quality literacy and numeracy education, particularly in regions like India, where there are significant disparities in learning opportunities? And also, if you could give us the examples of programs or resources that you have provided to marginalize the learners based on the platform of the tools that you are using. Now, Ms. Subra Mittal, you have the floor.
Thank you. First, thank you so much for inviting me. And I've learned so much from all the previous speakers and panels in terms of what's happening in this space in other regions. And I'm very delighted to have an opportunity to share about the work in Khan Academy that we're doing in India and how that could contribute to everybody. So yeah, I think to the question that you have asked me, a platform like Khan Academy is playing a huge role in providing quality education to anybody. In fact, this is the very core of why Khan Academy as an organization exists and what we're driven by. So when we started back in 2009, 2010, our mission was that, and our core belief is that anybody can learn anything anywhere. And it is with this very, very specific mission, Khan Academy as an organization started, and everything that we're doing here is, in keeping and staying very true to this mission. From a learning lens, the idea is to provide access to very high quality learning resources, be it on math, science, economics, financial literacy, personal finance, and many other areas. And, enabling learners to use these resources and learn. Today, Khan Academy content is being used by more than 115 million learners in over 190 countries. And 20 million learners come on Khan Academy platform every month. This is globally. And in India, we have close to 9 million learners, and of which, more than 1.2 million learners come on our platform every month. Now, if I was to step back and say, what is it about Khan Academy and the platform and as a learning platform, online learning platform, that enables this kind of a reach, this kind of a footprint? And I think to something that, one of the earlier speakers also shared, and particularly when we want to talk about technology, is that technology has to be very easy and intuitive to use. So when it is reaching the hands of a learner or a user, it has to be super intuitive, especially in settings like India, where digital literacy to begin with is low. And so if anything is very complicated, it doesn't help. The second one, I think that becomes very important, and what we're learning from our work, globally and in India, is of course around the quality of the content, and just the way the content is designed, and the way Khan Academy content is designed and it's structured. It is truly to enable learning, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit on this. I think there is evidence that we know learners learn the best when they are, being taught in the medium of instruction that they're more familiar with. Globally, Khan Academy content is available in 50 languages. And in India, we have Khan Academy content available in more than 6 Indian languages. And so here's an opportunity for a vast number of learners to, take ownership of their learning in a language and in a medium of instruction that they feel most comfortable in. The third piece, as we talk about the quality of content, is just how the content is designed and structured. And here again, I just want to highlight some of the factors that really do make the access and providing quality learning opportunities there. What we do on Khan Academy is we really do break down the concepts into far, smaller, simpler chunks that makes it far easier for a learner to grasp that concept. They are able to grasp this concept watching a video, which is 2 minutes to 5 minutes, engaging with that content in multiple ways, in different types of questions, different types of application opportunities that we have. And the real idea is that the learner can attempt those practice questions any number of times, and if they get stuck, they have resources that they can access through supplemental videos, through hints that are built in to say, what is it that I'm not getting right that I want to do? So the idea is not for it to be a testing platform. The idea is to be a learning platform and really enable that learning in multiple ways. Understanding students and learners need different opportunities and learn at a different pace. And of course, the fact that it's a digital platform, it can be accessed by learners anytime, anywhere. Everything is completely free. There is no gated content that's there. And the huge benefit that Khan Academy has is that the learning is very personalized. So a learner doesn't need to start at any level. If they don't understand anything, they can come down, start with simpler, more basic concepts, more basic courses, and then kind of keep building up. So the trajectory, they can chart it out really on their own end. And then the two other pieces which kind of make the platform and the content really so learner centric is and like what we learn with any technology and any online learning platform is you need to keep the learner engaged, and you want them to keep engaging with the platform, and there's a lot of gamification built in, there's a lot of motivation built in for learners, for students, so that they continue to feel motivated as they are learning on the platform. And then learners do get equipped and empowered with understanding what their learning journey is and what their learning progress is, which they're able to use. I think the beauty of Khan Academy as a platform and what it does do as it's looking to improve quality education is that as it looks at the learner side, it also understands the ecosystem in which the learner is working and operating in, right? And similar to the learner platform, there is a platform and the integration available for a coach. That coach could be a teacher, that coach could be a parent, that coach could be anybody else who is involved in the learner's journey. And there's a very seamless way that the coach can come in and be part of the learner's journey. And for teachers specifically, if you are using Khan Academy in the context of a school system, they are very easily able to integrate it within their classroom instruction and really understand the journey of their students. I think I'm going to specifically want to talk about a program that we're running here in India in a school system, which is Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalayas. The school system is really targeting girls from disadvantaged backgrounds. Many of these girls have been out of school, but are reinitiating formal education. And really the idea has been to work with the school system to say how Khan Academy and technology can be integrated to provide them better quality of education, to give them access to that. One of the big things that we did in understanding the system, understanding the kind of gaps these girls have as they enter the system, is we designed a very specific course for them, which was focused on foundational numeracy. And it really brought in various different concepts that were important from a foundational numeracy point for these girls to, use the platform too, as they were able to do it from a teacher's lens, given the kind of, variation in learning levels that they were encountering in their classrooms. It was becoming very hard for them to cater to that variation. And through this course and Khan Academy platform and the resources, they were able to really benefit both teachers and students. What we're learning as we worked in this system is the impact it has had with, girls picking up digital literacy, fear on maths being sort of doing away with, and most importantly, the attitude of everybody around them, where from the very early ages they've heard maths is not a subject for them as girls. That attitude they have shattered by just the confidence they have gained in maths and what they can do.
Okay.
These
We are running out of time. Can you have like a 30 seconds to
Yes,
say your
and I think
final words? Yes,
I think
please.
my final place would be the technology and the right learning technology when when it works well with everything in the ecosystem can be very powerful, and that requires, I think, as we've talked about, content, access, content, capacity, all to be kind of come together to enable that to happen. And when done well, it can be very empowering for the learner. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry because we are running out of time. Thank you so much, Ms. Subra Mittal, the Head of Government Partnership and Program from Khan Academy, India. Dear participants and speakers, once again, thank you very much for your participation and the sessions, as special sessions too. Now I give the floor to Ms. Rakat Zoldo Shaliva to conclude the webinar today.
Thank you so much to every speaker who contributed their ideas today at the webinar. Thank you so much for colleagues at UNESCO and interpreters who have done a wonderful job of creating a platform for us to discuss and learn together. Unfortunately, we do not have enough time to engage in interaction. So I would like to sum up this webinar with few words by highlighting the issues that have been already announced by the director of the Institute at the beginning in the opening remarks on the issues of connectivity, capacity, and content. We have learned quite a lot of experiences that are being, that we have across different countries of GAL, but also non-GAL countries, also ideas of the academia, but also private sector and NGOs that are working in the area by integrating technology, but also raising questions about what technology, which technology, how often and where and why we are using, and what kind of technologies we have to use to be able to become critical users of such media as well. I would like to, in order to continue this engaging conversation and exchange further ideas, I'm sure there are a lot of ideas on the floor today as well, we'd like to announce that the GAL Secretariat will be launching a new community of practice, which is discussion forum on our UIL Learning Hub. It's a platform, online platform, and my colleagues will share already some of the links that you could register on this platform to carry forward our discussion on that platform. And we would like to highlight that this is an online space where you could engage and access recordings of the webinars, but also notes and some of the points which may not have been shared throughout the webinar today through links as well. I think UIL will be happy to leverage to continue the discussion on the leverage of the potential technologies for literacy instruction and learning and provision, administration, management, many other issues that were raised today. And I think the COP will be one of the areas which we would like to contribute as well as an institute and the Secretariat. With this, I would like to thank everybody for your active engagement through chat boxes as well. And we would like to announce that we will organize this year another webinar, and stay tuned, and please contact us if you have any further questions. Just one important highlight I would like to make is that we will be having a GAL annual meeting during the International Literacy Day in September, and you'll hear more from our UNESCO offices about about this event as well. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for interpreters for a wonderful job that you have done, and the moderators of this webinar. Good evening and goodbye, and have a good day to those who have mornings starting morning. Thank you. Bye-bye.